The series begins with a spatial quake devastating the center of Eurasia. 30 years have passed since the spatial quake, and the ditzy Kotori Itsuka and her adopted older brother, Shidou, live in Tengu City, Japan. For the opening ceremony, Kotori and Shidou make a promise to meet at a diner later that day. As school ends for Shidou, a spatial quake alarm sounds throughout the city for the citizens to enter shelter areas immediately. After being unable to contact his sister, Shidou uses his GPS to confirm that she is still within the city according to their promise. He leaves the shelter to find her, and in doing so is outside when the spatial quake occurs and creates a giant crater, thus meeting a spirit armor girl in the center. After a battle between the spirit and the AST unit, those eradicate spirits, who Shidou witnesses his popular classmate, Origami Tobichi, is a part of the AST, he meets the Ratatosker organization on their airship, the Franksinus, with Sirius Kotori the commander, and learns about the spirits. He gets knowledge of his ability that can seal away spirits' powers by making them fall in love with him. Shidou is undergoing stage 2 of his training, which is practical application upon real humans. First, his teacher, Tamae Okimine, who with the assistance of Rain Marusame and Kotori, falls head over heels in obsessive love with him. Running away from her, he bumps into Origami. He uses her for practice but ends up unintentionally starting a relationship with her. A spatial quake alarm occurs and the princess spirit is expected to appear at Risen High School. With the students evacuated and part of the school destroyed by the spatial quake, Shidou heads inside of the school to confront Princess. Shidou makes a conversation with Princess and names her Toka. The AST shows up in the air and engages Toka from long range with their rifles to kill Toka through the green shield, but Origami sees Toka with Shidou and assumes she is holding him hostage. Since Shidou is now her boyfriend, Origami battles Toka in close combat, but is injured. The next day, Toka appears before Shidou as she is rummaging through the collateral damage, so they may go on their date. Following the incident at Risen High School, Shidou and Toka are on their date, being overseen and supported by the Franksinus crew. Toka mistakenly assumes that each variety of food she is consuming at first is a date. Not accustomed to the crowd, when the couple enter the shopping area, she assumes that humanity is launching an all-out attack on her. Origami observes them from the shadows while Shidou and Toka go from a high-priced restaurant to south of the station, where they enter an improvised shopping area. Toka is able to indulge in the foods present to her desire, but notices that Shidou does not seem to be having fun. They move on to an arcade that is dominated by crane games. In the course of playing for a prize that has caught Toka's eye, Toka inadvertently voices her bond with Shidou. They make their way to a cliff edge where Toka finally notices what a date is, and sees why the mecha people want to keep the world that is so kind, fun, and beautiful from getting destroyed. Meanwhile, Origami is given permission to kill her with a single blast, but Shidou intercepts Origami's blast. With Shidou killed, Toka furiously attacks a stunned Origami to avenge Shidou. Before Toka can kill Origami, Shidou is mysteriously revived with his wounds completely healed and falls from the sky towards Toka. To prevent the city's destruction by a critical state, Toka kisses Shidou while they glide down the cliff's edge as Toka's astral dress disappears. Toka has transferred into Shidou's dress, where she and Origami immediately started a rivalry. Shidou meets Yoshino for the first time while running through a shrine on a rainy, ill-forecast day. Believing her to be just a girl, he goes on about his way. At school, Toka has made cookies and competes with Origami for Shidou's attention. Arriving home, Shidou learns that Toka will be living in his house since she has sealed her powers. Kotori explains that it is also training, as Shidou still has to assist in sealing more spirits. Later, as a spatial quake alarm goes off during school, Shidou heads out to find its Yoshino, aka Hermit, that is the cause. Toka is left in the shelter while Shidou goes out to meet Yoshino, only to have Toka follow him and witness the two accidentally having kissed. Toka took the puppet and wouldn't let Yoshino have it back, only to provoke Yoshino, who attacks while leaving. Toka is avoiding Shidou due to her feelings about what happened between him and Yoshino. She talks with Rain and receives advice and clarity about what occurred. During this time, Shidou helps Yoshino look for her puppet, Yoshinon, which Toka dropped when she was defeated by Shidou from an attack. Yoshino gets hungry while searching, so the two go to Shindou's house to eat. It is revealed that Yoshinon is Yoshino's friend because he is essentially a hero that is everything Yoshino wants to be. As Shidou is getting close to Yoshino, Toka barges in spouting an apology but misinterprets the situation. Yoshino disappears away, Toka barges out again, but Shindo learns from Kotori that Yoshinon is at Origami's place. Origami forcibly makes progress between them when Shindo comes over, but as the conversation turns to spirits, she gets notice of a mission. Yoshino is being targeted by the AST, but Shindo plans to save her with Toka's help. As Toka acts as a decoy, Shindo makes it through Yoshino's barrier with Yoshinon to fulfill his promise. With her trust in him established, Shindo seals Yoshino's powers. In the last few scenes, it is revealed that the housing for the spirits has been completed so that Toka and Yoshino may move in. Toka and Yoshino decide to visit a hot spring, so Shido makes the arrangement for them to go to Tengu Gokuraku Hot Springs. Perverted Kyohei Kanazuki persuades Kotori to go too, but it's been exposed that he has ulterior motives. His punishment is to dig a hole and refill it for the next week. Meanwhile, Ryoko Kusakabe of the AST is informed that the DEM Corporation is going to send reinforcements. A hot-headed Ryoko also finds out from her member that due to the increase of the spirit's alert level, the group's vacation trip is cancelled. Instead, the AST member will take Ryoko to the hot spring that Shido is going to. Origami, uninterested at first, receives a phone call from Shido where she overhears that he'll be going to the hot spring with Toka, reluctantly decides to go as well. While riding in the car, Yoshino is given affectionate attention by Shindo, which frustrates Toka, causing Rena's car and road to be wrecked, forcing them to walk instead. This in turn disrupts the train the AST is riding underground. The AST arrive on the surface, unknowingly going in the same direction as Shindo's group on the way to the hot spring. Kotori orders the group to do everything to stop AST in their tracks, pushing a stressed out Ryoko to the breaking point, ordering everyone to use full force, turning into an all-out war, using ridiculous and absurd objects in Date Town, from sticky substance to sleeping gas. A stray ordnance causes Yoshinon to fly off after the explosion. Yoshido goes to find Yoshinon in the midst of the firefight and is almost killed by Ratatosker's destruct mode. Toka saves Shido from the attack while overseen by Origami and fellow AST members. Kyohei dug up a hot spring that Kotori and the group end up enjoying themselves in. Mana Takamiya is then shown arriving in Japan after the credits. Mana is having a 10 vs 1 practice match against Origami's unit, before having introduced herself at the briefing AST's previous battle with the Hermit where she unknowingly reveals herself to be Shido's biological sister. Kurumi Tokisaki transfers into Shido's class, revealing herself to be a spirit. During her time touring the school with Shido, they're followed by Origami and Toka. But as Shido attempting to seduce Kurumi, she is also attempting to get closer to him. Kurumi, codenamed Nightmare, is known to be the most deadly spirit. After school, Kurumi kills 3 delinquents and is confronted by Mana. Mana then runs into Shido later on that day. Taking her to his house, what Mana shares about herself leads to a quarrel between her and Kotori, but ultimately leaves everyone with more questions than answers. During school the next day, Shido finds out that Kurumi was killed during her confrontation with Mana, yet she appeared at school. Origami questions Kurumi in a secluded place and finds out that Kurumi is pursuing Shido for his extended lifespan. Shido invites Kurumi out but is forced on a polygamous date when Toka seduces him and Origami forces her plans upon him for a date. Shido is unable to deny any of them as Toka would be heartbroken, Origami would be suspicious, and his plans to seal Kurumi depend on the date. With their dates occurring around the same time and their entertainment venues located rather close to each other, Ratatasker assists Shido by teleporting him to each girl's location while monitoring their emotional levels. After Shido leaves Kurumi, he finds some boys shooting at a stray cat and convinces them to let her play with them. Ratatasker loses sight of Kurumi as Origami and Toka run into each other. As they both proclaim they're trying to find Shido for their date, Origami runs off concerned there may be another. Shido returns to look for Kurumi but only finds blood, body parts, and Kurumi killing a tormentor. As she holds Shido within her clutches, Mana intervenes wearing her CR unit. Mana kills Kurumi and explains everything to Shido. After he is forced away, he avoids Origami and Toka after running into them, because of seeing the death Kurumi caused. Toka finds out the reason for Shido's behavior and continues her date with him to try and cheer him up. After gaining some insight to Kurumi, the next day Shido declares Kurumi that he'll save her. Kurumi goes to the school rooftop while encasing the school in her field to dissuade Shido from trying to save her. Mana is confronting Kotori about Ratatosker, and attempting to use it as leverage against Kotori so she'll release Shindo from the potential danger he's in. While Kurumi is threatening the school and the town, Origami and Toka are engaging in battles with other copies of Kurumi. Shindo convinces Kurumi only for her to be killed by another Kurumi, since she can twist time using Zafkiel. As Toka and Origami show up, it's revealed that the hands in Kurumi's shadow are actually the hands of past versions of herself. Kurumi takes everyone hostage and attempts to blow a spatial quake only for it to be blown away. Kotori appears in the astral dress as the Ifrit flame spirit, explaining the spatial quake cancellation and fights Kurumi. After a short conversation, Kurumi uses one of her skills to make Kotori stay still, create copies of herself, and shoot Kotori a few times. Then the shocked Kurumi sent her copies to kill Shidou, but was pushed away by Kotori and the copies were killed. In the heat of the fight, Kurumi inhibits Kotori, but it only worked for a while. Kotori used her weapon to shoot Kurumi after the frightened Kurumi summoned her copies to shield her. Shidou tried to reason with Kotori not to kill Kurumi, but she ignored him, making Shidou realize Kotori is no longer herself. Immediately, he went to stand in front of Kurumi to shield her. After the shot landed, Kotori suddenly regained consciousness and deflected the shot. Shidou woke up on the Franksinus after dreaming of an event that happened 5 years ago. Being calmed down by Rain, he went to see Kotori regarding on her condition. He left in despair to meet Manga and Origami in the hospital. Unable to meet Mana, Shidou instead met Origami. Before Shidou exited Origami's room in the late evening, she told him of her intent to kill the flame spirit to avenge her parents' death 5 years ago, and that's the reason she joined AST. Shidou is contemplating the situation regarding Kotori involving the 5-year event, including the statements made by her and Origami about the residential life, with Radatosker's headquarters personnel all agreeing that Ocean Park is the ideal venue for Shidou's date. He undergoes training outlined by Rain involving Shidou, Toka, and Yoshino to buy swimsuits. As Toka asks about a swimsuit, Origami teases her that it's a new piece of anti-spirit equipment. Finally, she inquires of Toka about Ifrit, to the point of being overly polite in her questioning. Finding Toka's information useless, Origami pressures Shidou into viewing her choices of swimsuits. Toka and Origami turn it into a contest in that whoever turns on Shidou most gets to go on a date with him. But back on Franksinus, Shidou watches the video of the fire from 5 years ago. Recognizing ordinary video noise as a spirit or phantom, initiates a series of flashbacks that lead to Shidou blacking out. Toka and Yoshino tag along the next day to help Kotori ease up and are able to partake, as Shidou sees Kotori resorting to pharmaceuticals to counteract her deteriorating mental condition. His determination is invigorated, leading to him to take Kotori away alone. At the AST base, Origami gets first-hand view of the DW-029 Annihilator gear, codenamed White Licorice, sent there by DEM Industries for use of Mana. In talking with Ryoko, she indirectly told that they have footage of the battle between Kotori and Kurumi. In the last scene, Origami is staring at a frame from the footage showing Kotori as she realizes who Ifrit is. A frightened Kotori is with Shidou at the amusement park riding various roller coasters and attractions on their date. Without communications, Radotasker can only monitor with Kyohei making masochistic comments to the opportunities Shidou should have taken. While separated, Yoshino tells Toka what she overheard about Kotori being a spirit, and how Shidou is trying to steal her powers. Origami steals the white licorice and suddenly attacks Kotori as she is talking with Shidou. Kotori changes into her spirit form to fight back, and Origami enters into a rampage, going into a full offensive. Before Kotori strikes a finishing blow, Origami accused her of how she killed her parents, astonishing Kotori long enough for Origami to trap her. Shidou intervenes, delaying Origami, but as she is about to fire, Toka and Yoshino arrive. Toka strives to stop Origami, but as her ordnance is exploding ever closer to Shidou and Kotori, the latter two kiss, effectively sealing Ifrit. Simultaneously, Shidou and Kotori remember exactly what happened 5 years ago. Shidou pleads with Origami as she reaches the operational limit of white licorice and collapses from exhaustion. Kurumi is seen on a rooftop, only commenting, "This is not enough." Back on the Fraxinus, Rin reveals that the real date wasn't necessary as Kotori's affection levels had not wavered since Shidou first woke. Kotori returns to fill out reports asking if what Shidou said was true. Kotori gets uncharacteristically embarrassed as he confirms his love for her, but Shidou finishes saying simply as his sister, he receives swift punishment. During the credits, it's shown that white licorice has been returned to the AST, while Origami is recovering in hospital under guard. As Shidou and Toka are about to kiss, they're interrupted by Radotosker and finally Yoshinon, along with Yoshino simply to say to be continued sometime. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.